Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Sadhana Chatushtaya is a teaching of the divine sage Adi Shankara. This teaching refers to the 4 traits that one should strive and develop before and during one's spiritual journey. Prayag Raj. Traveling to Prayag Raj is known to be the holiest of pilgrimages. Prayag Raj was formerly known as Allahabad. Prayag means confluence. This holy place is the confluence of 3 of the holy rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati. It's about 2.5 hours drive from Varanasi. Guru Mangala and I decided to visit this holy spot on 6th March 2020.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
So we have sat in the boat at Prayag, and the trick is to find our way out of this. These are all the boats here. So Triveni Sangam is where Ganges is flowing from the north and Yamuna is flowing from the east, so they meet here. And Saraswati is the underground river, so Saraswati comes from under the earth. As we saw, Saraswati merges into Alaknanda right in Badrinath itself. She's flowing underground, and then she perhaps surfaces at some point here for a little bit, I don't know. But so they meet here, and so this becomes a very powerful portal of energy of these 3 rivers meeting. And that's where we are going. We're going to go and take a dip at that very spot. And then and that's it, and that's supposed to cleanse us. So look at that, they give us life jackets as well. So that's good. But anyway, keep it for safety. But anyway, keep it.
Safety, okay.
Yeah. Pehn ke rakh lo, safety. So that's what it is going to be. So let's see how that goes. Go down this holy journey into this dip at the Triveni Sangam, which is again mentioned thousands of years in the Puranas and all the holy scriptures. We thought we'll sing a few bhajans, and I ventured to start. Man ek baar Hari bol, man ek baar Hari bol. Gao re gun gao re,
Ganga Yamuna tir chalo 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 re.
नाम बिना प्राण नहीं, साई नाम
बिना प्राण नहीं. रंगा हरे विठला, पुरंदर रंगा हरे विठला, पंढरी रंगा हरे विठला, पंढरी रंगा रंगा हरे विठला पुरंदर रंगा हरे विठला
धार करो हे परतिपुरी भगवान
धार करो हे परतिपुरी भगवान
राम 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 घन श्याम 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 हे साईनाथ भगवान
हरे राम 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 घन श्याम 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 हे साईनाथ भगवान
चलो मन गंगा यमुना तीर चलो मन गंगा यमुना तीर गंगा यमुना निर्मल पानी गंगा यमुना निर्मल पानी गंगा यमुना निर्मल पानी शीतल होत शरीर चलो मन शीतल होत शरीर चलो मन गंगा यमुना तीर चलो मन गंगा यमुना तीर.
So this is the holy spot, the spot where the confluence of Ganges coming from over there, from the north, and we are on the river Yamuna. So we are going towards the place where they meet, and Saraswati is below. So this is it. This is the Triveni Sangam, where all the three gunas meet together, where the Ida, Pingala, and the Sushumna meet. This is what has become symbolic in the yoga practice. Ida, Pingala, Sushumna is the unseen Nadi, is the Saraswati Nadi that you can't see. Ida and Pingala are Ganga and Yamuna. And so they become symbolic of meeting at the spot in between the eyebrows. So this is actually a power center for the Agnya Chakra. So that is why it's regarded as a holy place. So you can see there's a difference in the color. Actually, the watercolor also changes here.
Changes every day.
Because you have the green color of the Ganges and the brown color of Yamuna meeting together. So it's fascinating. I don't know if the camera is going to catch it, but we'll see. So it's kind of crazy here, but I'm going to try and dip in with the camera. This is a waterproof camera, so I'll hopefully give you an experience of taking a dip along with me. So let's see how that goes. Right now you see how packed this is here. So we'll wait our turn and and see how that goes. It's fun. Jai Bholenath.
बोलिए नमो गंगे
नमो गंगे
महादेवी
महादेवी
भागीरथी नमस्ते इदम फलम
मायादेवी
स्थापितम पुरुषस्तव सफला भवेत जन्म जन्मनि श्री गंगा यमुना सरस्वती त्रिवेणी संगम स्नान पुण्य प्राप्ति निमित्त सतकुटुम्बस्य सपरिवारस्य शांति आरोग्य निमित्त फाल्गुनी मास एकादशी पुण्यतिथि फलम द्रव्यम नमस्तुते यथास्थिति ब्राह्मण दक्षिण कृष्णार्पणम्.
So this is it. This is the holy Sangam. So Ganges is flowing from there, and then Yamuna is flowing from here, and Saraswati is underneath. So you and I, we are all here at the Triveni Sangam. I never thought I will be here. Place that is mentioned in the Puranas. So how about us taking a dip? Ready? The water is cold. So Har Har Gange. It's not very deep actually. I'm sitting and in the water right now. So let's take a dip together. Jai Bhole. I've never done this with a camera. Jai Bhole. So this is how it is. This is it. the holiest of holy dips. Jai. Jai Bhole. Jai Bhole. Jai Bhole. Jai Bhole. Har Har Bam Bam Bole. Everybody's chanting. All the prayers are being offered to the ancestors. All the souls are being sent to freedom, similar to what I did in Badrinath. But this is another holy spot. So that's it. Joy, 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 and gratitude to be a part of this ancient ceremony, ancient tradition. So may all the yogis in the world, may all the spiritual aspirants, may all the sadhakas, may everyone searching for God find their goal. So in everyone's name and the divinity that is in everyone. Let's take a dip one more, one last time, one third time. Bam Bam Bole! This is a holy sand. From that, I'm going to take some with me. I'll keep it in the Kaivalya Gurukulam. Just like that. I don't know, I just felt it. So, a memento from this holy spot. God knows when I'll do this again. So, Jai Bholena, Jai Bholena, Jai Bholena. So that's it. What a lovely experience it was. Just a unique, traditional kind of a feel. Just being part of something so old, something so ancient. India has such a divine history. My gosh, it dates back centuries. And just to do something which hundreds of sages, yogis, and all of them took a dip, there must be some energy to that. There was definitely. I felt, after my third dip, I felt a sense of deep peace. So, I am happy. So, while we are in this, as this boatman is slowly rowing the boat, and it's so peaceful as we slowly head our way back to the banks. He's actually rowing against the current, so it's difficult. So I thought I'll introduce the next class. Welcome to KYG. Welcome to the Kaivalya class. We were talking about Shama Dhamma, and in this class we'll talk about Uparati. If you have not seen the other videos, you should, because we have talked about the fourfold, the four pillars, the foundational pillars for spiritual practice. We talked about Viveka in a couple of videos. We did Vairagya, detachment, dispassion. Then in the Shat Sampatti, the 6 virtues, we covered Shama Dhamma. And we come to the third one called Uparati. It's also known as Uparama, Uparati. Uparati is, Rati is pleasure, and Uparati is withdrawal from that pleasure. So it's kind of similar to Dhamma, restraining of the senses, but this is the mind, going back to the Shama. Shama and Dhamma is mind, withdrawal of the mind, equanimity of the mind, withdrawal of the senses. Uparama, Uparati, is holding that withdrawn mind steady. So bringing it away from the senses. It is very similar to Pratyahara. In their stages in the eightfold path, you have Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara. The 5th stage is Pratyahara. So similar to that, here the mind cuts itself away from the senses. So in Dhamma, what do you do? In Dhamma, the previous one that we talked about, you put a restraint on the senses. You put a fence around the senses. So it's like you shut the door and then you sat alone in the room. Now your mind is cut off from the senses and you hold the mind. So Rati means pleasure, Rati means senses. So the mind is Uparati. So it is away from the senses. I've taken it, cut it off from the senses, and I'm holding the mind on its own accord, if you will. The idea here is at this point, you will identify yourself with the mind. I feel peaceful, I am steady, I am all of that. But the real I is beyond all of that, correct? But then the I that is identifying with the body is now slowly learning to identify itself with this mind that is devoid of all senses. It is very close to a deep sleep state. So this is where this kind of experience, this kind of training that you do is what you will experience in meditation. Where in meditation you don't go someplace, don't try to do anything, you simply withdraw this mind away from the senses. And the senses shut themselves off, literally. Like I said, deep sleep, think of deep sleep. The difference between this and deep sleep is what? Is in deep sleep you don't know what's happening. You can't sustain it. But here, it's kind of tricky because you are there and yet without these senses, the mind becomes so still. It's almost like you're going to fall asleep, but there's a state of complete absorption, deep absorption. And then you snap out of it. This deep absorption, there's moments of where the mind is away from the senses. It maybe lasts for a few seconds, maybe a minute. Okay, it's very, very difficult to hold it there. But nevertheless, we got to try that in meditation. But again, this Uparati is, the lesser said about it, the better, the more you will understand when you practice. Uparati is basically, how do I take my mind and cut it off from the senses? The ear stops hearing stuff. In other words, the mind is completely unperturbed by the sounds that's coming from the ear, the smell that goes from the nose, the sights that disturb me, or the taste in the mouth, or the sense skin, whether it's hot or cold or whatever. Everything becomes immaterial for the mind. It simply stays absorbed. You can't even say I'm absorbed in the breath, because breath is Vayu. So that is also out. All the 5 elements, the mind is above. So you're slowly taking the mind above the 5th chakra into this spot. This is what I said. Triveni Sangam is this spot. Uparati is taking the mind to this spot. And it is strange that we are doing this Triveni Sangam right at the time where this class is matching. That is the point. Ganga, Yamuna merging into Saraswati. And Saraswati from the middle merging into the Triveni Sangam. It happens here. Here is where you experience Uparati, the mind devoid of senses. And you hold it there. And then it'll come back. And then again go back to Shama and Dhamma. Sit and observe the sounds coming, going, the smell coming and going, and then slowly withdraw the mind away from all of that. Detached mind. This is a very important training. This will in turn strengthen your practice of Viveka. This in turn will strengthen the practice of Vairagya. This in turn will strengthen the practices of Shama and Dhamma. So they all help each other. They all supplement each other. None of these practices are done in isolation. Viveka, Vairagya, Shama, Dhamma, Uparati. So out of the 6 virtues, we touched upon the 3 of them. Shama, Dhamma and Uparati. Like I said, Uparati, there is really nothing much to talk about except practice. It's the things which are spoken about the least are the most difficult to actually experience. And Uparati is one of them, where the mind is completely disassociates itself with the senses. My dear friends, thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for being in the Ganges with me, in the Triveni Sangam. So, there you go. That's part of that's part of the fun of being here. So thank you for being here. Think about Uparati in your class today, and it's been a very short class. But meditate on this concept of Uparati. How do I disassociate my mind? Don't try to analyze it. Don't try to logically think it, just practice it. That's why I said Shama and Dhamma, if you practice, Uparati is kind of is a byproduct that just comes as a consequence of practicing Shama and Dhamma. And when you practice Uparati, then we go on to the next virtue out of the 6 virtues. We'll explore that another time. So, thank you again. Om Namah Shivaya. May this energy of the Triveni Sangam, the energy of Ganges and the Yamuna and Saraswati that's flowing in us as Ida, Pingala and the Sushumna Nadi, may all these channels become pure as these rivers are. And may they cause this awakening of the Shiva within us. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.